The medieval winter was not merely a season, it was a force that shaped every aspect of peasant life. In the world before central heating, insulated homes, or reliable food storage, the arrival of frost transformed daily existence into a battle for survival. Across the lands of Europe, from the icy fjords of Scandinavia to the snow-covered valleys of the Alps, peasants faced months of relentless cold, isolation, and scarcity. Life was measured in seasons, and winter dictated the rhythm of the year. When snow began to fall and rivers froze, it was more than discomfort. It was a test of endurance, ingenuity, and community. The approach of winter was both anticipated and feared. By late autumn, the entire village would mobilize for the months to come. Granaries were filled with the last of the harvest: oats, barley, rye, and wheat carefully dried and stored to resist moisture, mold, and pests. Root vegetables, turnips, parsnips, carrots, and cabbages were buried in sand or clay-lined pits, protected against freezing, rot, and rodents. Preservation of meat was vital. Families salted or smoked pork, beef, or fish, while butter and cheese were stored in cool, dark cellars. Failure to adequately prepare could mean months of starvation, and the winter's severity was often unpredictable. Stockpiling was not merely about food. Peasants gathered firewood from nearby forests, cutting and stacking logs to ensure warmth throughout the long, dark nights. Straw and reeds were collected for thatching roofs or reinforcing bedding. Simple tools, rope, and spare clothing were repaired or crafted anew in preparation. Every item had its purpose in survival, and the act of preparation was a ritual, a way to assert some control over the uncontrollable forces of winter. Peasant cottages were modest but designed to endure. Walls made of wattle and daub, timber, or local stone provided basic insulation, while thatched roofs kept out snow and wind. Floors were packed earth, often covered with straw for warmth. A central hearth dominated the living space, providing heat, light, and a place to cook. Entire families huddled around it, using shared body warmth and layers of wool, fur, and straw to stave off frostbite. Smoke from the fire, while uncomfortable, helped repel insects and dampness, creating a tolerable interior microclimate. In more northern regions, homes evolved to meet the harsher environment. Stone cottages with small windows reduced heat loss, and smoke-filled chimneys were sometimes added to guide the smoke out efficiently. In Scandinavian settlements, sod-covered roofs provided extra insulation against snow and freezing winds. Even small design choices, such as the elevation of storage platforms to keep grain above damp floors, were vital for survival. Clothing was a critical defense against winter's bite. Peasants wore multiple layers, primarily wool, which retained warmth even when damp. Linen shirts, woolen tunics, and cloaks were mended and patched year after year. In colder regions, furs from domesticated animals like sheep, goats, and sometimes foxes or rabbits provided essential insulation. Gloves, hoods, and leggings were vital for preventing frostbite during outdoor labor. Winter labor was physically grueling. Fields froze, livestock needed daily care, and firewood had to be collected from increasingly distant forests. Every task required careful planning. Too little exertion meant the cold penetrated the body. Too much risked exhaustion and exposure. Work was often scheduled for the sunniest, warmest hours of the day, while long nights were spent tending fires, repairing tools, or crafting essential items. Winter brought food scarcity, the greatest challenge to peasant survival. Grain, carefully rationed, formed the backbone of the diet, often boiled into porridge or baked into hard, dense bread. Fresh vegetables were scarce, preserved root crops, pickled cabbage, and dried fruits provided limited variety. Meat was usually reserved for festivals or special occasions, while preserved fish, particularly salted herring, became a staple in northern regions. Hunting and trapping supplemented diets, but snow, ice, and stormy weather limited access to wild game. Water sources could freeze, making daily hydration a challenge. Villagers relied on melted snow or ice collected from streams, careful to avoid contamination. In extreme winters, wells could freeze, forcing communities to dig channels or break ice to access water. Malnutrition was common, and starvation during prolonged winters left peasants weak and susceptible to disease. Historical accounts tell of lean years when frost destroyed crops and communities relied entirely on stored reserves, charity, or risky foraging. Survival in the medieval winter depended heavily on cooperation. Villagers assisted one another with tasks too challenging for a single family, hauling firewood, repairing roofs, or moving livestock to sheltered pastures. Communities often shared resources, whether grain, firewood, or labor, recognizing that individual survival was intertwined with collective resilience. Seasonal festivities provided both psychological relief and practical benefits. Winter fairs and celebrations, including Yule, St. Martin's Day, or local saints' feasts, offered brief respite from harsh routines. These gatherings allowed for communal meals, sharing of preserved goods, and the reinforcement of social bonds, critical for morale during months of isolation and scarcity. Even simple acts, like storytelling around the hearth, strengthened communal identity and offered hope during the darkest days of winter. Religion shaped not only moral life, but also practical strategies for enduring winter. Medieval peasants viewed the cold months as both a trial and a divine test. Regular prayers, church attendance, and ritual observances punctuated the long, dark months. Saints' days often brought special meals, communal gatherings, or charitable distributions, providing food, warmth, and psychological comfort. The church itself was a refuge. Its thick stone walls retained warmth, while fires, candles, and oil lamps provided light during long nights. During the coldest periods, churches could serve as shelters for travellers or the sick. Monasteries, with their stores of grain and food, sometimes offered assistance to local peasants, reflecting the intertwined role of faith, charity, and survival in medieval life. Peasants developed an intimate understanding of the natural world. Winter survival required knowledge of weather patterns, animal behaviour, and the local terrain. Early snowfall, icy winds, or sudden thaws could dictate changes in routine. Farmers learned to anticipate frosts and protect crops, hunters tracked animal movements to ensure food, woodcutters gauged the best trees for firewood without damaging future growth. Villages were strategically located, often in valleys sheltered from wind or near forests for firewood. Snow, though dangerous, was also a resource. Melted snow provided water when wells froze, while frozen rivers could serve as transportation routes when thawed waterways were impassable. Ice and frost required careful attention to clothing, housing, and daily labour, reinforcing the link between human ingenuity and environmental adaptation. Medical care was rudimentary, yet critical. Cold-related illnesses like frostbite, hypothermia, and respiratory infections were common. Remedies often relied on herbal knowledge, willow bark for fever, nettles for nutrition, and poultices for wounds. Midwives and herbalists played central roles, ensuring the survival of children and adults alike. Nutrition directly impacted health. Deficiencies in vitamins and minerals during long winters weakened immunity, leaving communities vulnerable to disease. Starvation and malnutrition were deadly, yet peasants' practical knowledge of local flora and preservation techniques allowed many to endure years when the cold was most severe. Life in winter was defined by routine, adaptation, and vigilance. Days began late, with limited daylight hours. Peasants tended livestock early in the morning, breaking ice in troughs and moving animals to sheltered barns. Fields, frozen and snow-covered, offered little yet occasional foraging provided wild roots, nuts, and edible plants. Fires were maintained constantly, both for cooking and for warmth. Children, while often helping with chores, found play in the snow, sliding on frozen ponds or building small snow shelters. Even in the harshest climates, human curiosity and joy persisted. Tasks inside the home included weaving, mending clothing, sharpening tools, and preparing food for the next day. Every action was dictated by necessity, yet routine brought stability in an unpredictable season. Historical accounts and folklore are filled with tales of survival. Chronicles recount families enduring months with little food, travelling miles through snow to reach distant villages, or sharing their meagre stores with neighbours. Songs and stories of frost giants, icy landscapes, and winter hardships reflected both the fear and the respect for the natural world. Each story underscored a simple truth: winter could kill, but careful planning, communal support, and ingenuity allowed life to continue. Despite hunger, cold, and the constant threat of illness, peasants endured. Winter shaped not only survival strategies, but character, fostering resilience, cooperation, and an intimate connection to nature. Communities adapted, traditions evolved, and practical knowledge passed from generation to generation. The cold months, though harsh, were a crucible that tested ingenuity, strength, and perseverance. When spring finally arrived, snow melted, rivers flowed again, and fields yielded new crops, the victories of survival were celebrated quietly and profoundly. Every meal, every warm night by the hearth, every successful planting became a testament to human resilience in the face of relentless natural forces. The medieval peasant's life in winter was a constant negotiation with the cold, but it was also a story of adaptation, endurance, and the enduring spirit of humanity.